All right, leaders, for this station, we are going to take a look at subject-verb agreement. We've talked about the subject and the predicate of the sentence. Every sentence has two parts, the subject and the predicate. The subject tells who or what the sentence is about. The predicate tells what the subject is doing, did, or will do. And verbs are always part of the predicate portion of the sentence. So let's take a look at the sentence. Paul Revere warns the colonists. We're going to do three things with this sentence. We're going to identify the subject portion of the sentence, and we're going to draw one single line underneath of it. We're then going to identify the predicate portion of the sentence and draw a double line underneath of it. And then we're going to identify the action that the subject is taking, and we are going to draw a circle around it. So again, our sentence is, Paul Revere warns the colonists. My subject is Paul Revere. My predicate is warns the colonists, and the action is warns. I'm going to give you a moment to think through this sentence. The soldiers marched towards Concord. Think about what you would underline as the subject, what you would give a double line for predicate, and what you would circle for the action. All right, you should have said that you would underline the soldiers for the subject, march toward Concord as the predicate, and the action is march. All right, so when we're looking at subject-verb agreement, we can look at a subject being both singular and plural. So depending on what the subject is, would help us identify what the verb needs to be. So if my subject is singular, my verb needs to be singular. If my subject is plural, my verb needs to be plural. So there's a couple of rules that go along with this. If my verb ends in S, SH, CH, X, or Z, I'm going to add ES at the end. So the example, the government passes laws. Okay, notice that pass is PASS, and I'm going to add the ES for the ending. Verbs ending in Y, I'm going to take away the Y and change it to an I and add ES. So Paul Revere spies on the British soldiers. Spy would be normally SPY. I drop the Y and add IES. If my verb ends without any one of those endings, I would just simply add an S. The farmer plows his field. Okay. When I'm looking at a plural subject, more than one person or more than one thing, the verb does not change. So the colonists fight for their independence. Notice that fight just stays as regular fight. All right, we're going to ask you now to open up to workbook page 181 and 182, pausing point 4, and we're going to practice some subject-verb agreements. So the directions read, complete the agreement column using the information provided. Remember to use the present tense, action is happening now, even though you may be writing about people who lived in the past. So we're going to act like it's happening today. So our example is, our first example, the subject is British taxes. The action verb is to be. And then my agreement would be British taxes are. So British taxes are paying for the debt from the war. That would be present tense. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video and you're going to go through the rest of the chart and identify the subject. Think about if they're subject or plural. Look at the action word, and you can certainly use this chart on the directions page to help you. When you've finished the chart on page 181, I would like you to unpause the video and take a look at my answers and compare them to yours. All right, leaders, now that you've had some time to go over the chart, let's take a look. George Washington lead. George Washington leads. Remember, we need the S at the end. I to be. I am. The Continental Congress pass. The Continental Congress passes. You to be. You are. Phyllis Wheatley write. Phyllis Wheatley writes. The colonists, plural here, boycott. The colonists boycott. Notice I didn't change anything because the subject was plural. They, another plural, to be, they are. So this is an exception to the rule with the form to be. The representative is single. Try is the action verb. The representative tries. And then it and crash, it crashes. All right, take a moment and pause if you need to make any changes. If not, continue on to 182. For 182, we're going to write sentences for 5 of the subject-verb agreement statements you created in the previous chart. So for each sentence, you're going to circle the type of noun and that you used as the subject of your sentence, and then underline the verb in the sentence. The first sentence is completed for you, and I even am going to give you an example for number 2. So number 1, they circled that they used a noun, the British. They didn't use a pronoun, I, you, we, he, she, it, they. Those would be pronouns to replace the subject. So in this sentence, they said the British taxes are unfair to colonists. So they're using the actual noun, the British, and the verb is underlined as are. For my example, the colonists boycott the Stamp Act. Notice it's present as if it was presently happening now. Boycott is my verb, and I'm using the regular noun as the colonist. I could say they boycott the Stamp Act, and that would be a pronoun. So go ahead and pause and use 3 examples from the previous chart to write your own sentences. I can't wait to see what you come up with.